This is the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
Okay, guys, let's just rip. And Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall. Chris, thanks for being with me tonight.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall.
Now, he puts the broad in broadband. It's Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
It's Tuesday, the 15th day of August. Welcome into the Chris Stigall Show podcast. Thanks a lot for downloading this. I appreciate it. Coming up, we'll talk with Jerome Hudson. He's the Breitbart News Entertainment Editor about the explosive popularity of this guy, Oliver Anthony, who I'm sure you've heard of by now, but if for some reason you haven't, rich men north of Richmond. The theme of today's show, by the way, is going to largely be one of hope. Yes, we'll talk a little bit about Donald Trump's fourth indictment, but what more can you say about it? Mine is kind of more of I pull back and think about really what we have to cling to right now in what seems like a pretty murky time, and that is a hopefulness. So the show, to me, focuses more on hope. That's sort of the running strain of today's show. I hope you'll enjoy it. I always hope you'll give it a 5-star review and a written review and let me know what you think about it. But in the meantime, I hope you'll give John Ruhlman a call and let him know what you're paying in health insurance premiums a month, whether you get it from your employer and they take it out as a monthly or bi-weekly check. They take it out of your check. It's expensive. It costs a lot of money. And sometimes if you call John and his team at usmedicalplan.com or 877-410-4321, almost every time actually, what you'll find is he'll tell you, oh, we could do better. We can get you a better health insurance plan, and it will be cheaper too, like 30 to 60% cheaper. I mean, imagine saving maybe half, let's call it half, of what you're spending on health insurance premiums a month. If you're on a fixed income and you're a senior and you buy a supplemental plan, that's a measurable amount of money. If you're a young person, for pennies on the dollar, you can get a killer health insurance plan that pays you while you're in the hospital or if you ever get sick, heaven forbid. You need to investigate this. A 2 to 5 minute phone call with John and his team at usmedicalplan.com could save you demonstrable sums of money if you're a small business owner, if you're self-employed, if you buy your own health insurance for you and your family. Come on, I want to save you money. John does too. It's what he does. He works with 80 different private insurers. usmedicalplan.com or 877-410-4321. I'm kind of enjoying this fourth indictment simply because we have somebody named Fanny to talk about now, and I kind of just enjoy the 12-year-old in me like saying Fanny. It kind of feels like an old match game. So this will be the most fun of the indictments to talk about because it involves Fanny, the prosecutor. I like talking about Fanny. It's a fitting name for a party full of asses. Quite frankly, this is a fully weaponized political prosecution to consolidate power, one-party rule. You understand what this is. I'm bored with this. I don't know how many more of these shows I can do. Indictments of former President Trump are now so prolific and so commonplace. There's nothing profound to say. There's nothing new I can offer you. There is nothing you're not already feeling that I can't articulate. We've been through this since Alvin Bragg tried the first one in Manhattan. This is the fourth. I'm bored to tears. Single party rule through election interference and malicious prosecutions by big fannies. What do you want? We're watching Barack Obama. We're watching Marxism at work. The Biden crime family laughs in our faces. This again comes on the heels of Friday's naming of the special prosecutor, David Weiss. Friday we get that news. Yesterday we get another Trump indictment. And every time there's bad news for Joe Biden, there's another Trump indictment. You know, it's like it's a wonderful life. Every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. Every time a Biden gets in trouble, Donald Trump gets indicted again. And yet, this old withering husk had no comment, zero comment yesterday when asked very specifically about the fires in Maui that have now killed 100 people. 100 people have died in these massive fires, and the husk said nothing.
Mr. President, any comments on the rising death toll in Maui?
Will you come talk about the Hawaii response, Mr. President?
no comment. And he gets into the back of the Hillary and Rachel Maddow yucking it up. They're enjoying themselves over on MSNBC on this same day.
Very fancy meeting you here.
Oh, I
It's really
can't
nice to have you
believe
here.
this.
Yeah, this is not the circumstances in
cackle.
which I expected to be
Missed that,
talking to
didn't
you.
Nor me, Rachel. It's always good to talk to you, but honestly, I didn't think that it would be under these circumstances. Yet another set of indictments.
They're having a grand old time at your expense and mine, aren't they? Yet the number one song on iTunes right now is about corrupt Washington, D.C. politicians. So I'm not, folks, I'm not in despair, or I'm not deflated or depressed. I'm almost even over being angry at this point. I'm ready to engage. I'm ready to vote next year. I don't have much new to offer you. I guess I don't. Mark Levin talked a little about this yesterday. He's of course right, and he's brilliant, but what more can you say? Yeah, except varying degrees of this same thing. We're watching the consolidation of one-party rule. We're watching political persecution to eliminate any challenge to the one-party establishment.
Protect Hillary Clinton, it didn't apply to her. It's called the Presidential Records Act. But we're told we don't charge people for that sort of thing. Donald Trump is facing life in prison times, God knows how many years, because of these same rules. Now, in 1973 and in 2000, the Office of Legal Counsel of the Department of Justice, this is the brain trust of the Department of Justice, both issued a memo, and they say the same thing. You cannot indict a sitting president. They say, why? The Constitution doesn't say that. They said, but it'll undermine the Constitution. You can't have a man as president of the United States with all those responsibilities that he has, trying to run the country from the executive branch at the same time trying to protect his liberty. It's simply impossible to do both. And so they said, you cannot indict a sitting president. And so I've said to myself, and yet you can indict a man who's the former president running for president? Well, it's not the same thing, Mark. He's not running the executive branch. It's worse. It's worse because you have the administration of the man who is currently president, who knows that he's immunized from any charges of indictment as a result of these decisions, trying his administration to put his opponent, just like Putin, in prison. That's what's going on here. Donald Trump can't possibly defend his liberty and handle two Democrat DA lists of indictments, because Atlanta's coming, indictments in Washington, D.C., indictments in Washington, D.C. that have now been transferred to Florida. He's going to have over 100 counts against him. It is not possible to do both. Well, Mark, then maybe he shouldn't run for president. Isn't that their goal?
Yes. Yes. Mark Levin putting it succinctly, as he does. He's right. Of course, that's it. Flood the zone to such a degree the man can't possibly defend himself. Hopefully just drive him from the public space. And I have asked you before, what does this cycle look like if Donald Trump is successfully driven from this contest? What does it look like? I don't even know. I can't fathom it. I don't want to. That's a place I just don't want to let my head go. If they, I don't think they're going to succeed in stopping him from, I mean, I hold out the possibility I'm wrong. I've certainly been wrong before, and perhaps I'll be wrong on this one. I don't see at this hour Donald Trump not being the nominee. I could more readily entertain Donald Trump being driven out of this election than I could entertain him not being the Republican nominee. And I am really trying to get my head wrapped around what it looks like if Donald Trump is driven from this contest altogether because he just can't weather 4 or 5 indictments and defending himself all at once. That's what I'm trying to get my head wrapped around. And what comes of this country if that's successful? I don't dare go there, so I won't today. From Fox News, former President Trump indicted out of the years-long criminal investigation led by the state prosecutors in Georgia. Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, attorneys Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, Jenna Ellis, Kenneth Chesbrough, Jeff Clark, John Eastman, and others also charged out of the years-long investigation. This will be awkward for my colleague Jenna. Jenna is a Salem podcast host. Have we interviewed Jenna before? I feel like maybe we did while she was still with Team Trump, didn't we?
We did actually quite a bit during all of 2020 and 21.
Now she's on Team DeSantis, which makes this equally weird because she is a full-throated DeSantis enthusiast. So, not that has anything to do with anything. Charges include violating the Georgia RICO Act, the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organization Act, solicitation of violation of oath of office, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to read it all. You don't care, and neither do I. 97-page indictment. 41 felony counts. As for Trump himself, issued a statement yesterday. Like Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, deranged Jack Smith, and New York's AG Letitia James, Fulton County DA's radical Democrat District Attorney Fannie is a rabid partisan who, just like all the others, is campaigning and fundraising on a platform of prosecuting President Trump through these bogus indictments. Ripping a page from crooked Joe Biden's playbook, Willis has strategically stalled her investigation to try and maximally interfere with the 2024 presidential race and damage the dominant Trump campaign. All of these corrupt Democrat attempts will fail. Combined with the intentionally slow-walked investigations by the Biden-Smith goon squads and the false charges in New York, the timing of this latest coordination is a strike by a biased prosecutor in an overwhelmingly Democrat jurisdiction. It not only betrays the trust of the American people, but also exposes true motivation, driving their fabricated accusations. They could have brought this 2.5 years ago, yet they chose to do it for election interference reasons in the middle of President Trump's successful campaign. They go on to talk about how he's leading and doing well. The legal double standard set against President Trump must end. Under the crooked Biden cartel, there are no rules for Democrats, while Republicans face criminal charges for exercising their First Amendment rights. These activities by Democrat leaders constitute a grave threat to American democracy. They are direct attempts to deprive the American people of their rightful choice to cast their vote for president. Call it election interference or election manipulation. It is a dangerous effort by the ruling class to suppress the choice of the people. It is un-American and wrong. They are taking away President Trump's First Amendment right to free speech and the right to challenge a rigged and stolen election that the Democrats do all the time. The ones who should be prosecuted are the ones who created the corruption. President Trump will never give up and will never stop fighting for you as we all work to make America great again. Now, naturally, never Trumpers see this indictment as terribly alarming. This is the one that I've seen lots of never Trump folks, or people that I guess that are supportive of other Republicans, say we're doomed. Now we're cooked. There's no stopping Trump, and this is the most scathing of them all. Did you see that gas prices have climbed to the highest level in 10 months? Did you see that federal workers in San Francisco were urged to stay home now because the crime has gotten so bad? Just work from home. Not because of the pandemic. We used to tell federal workers to stay home because of the pandemic, the virus. Now it's too dangerous to go outside in major American cities, so they should stay home and do their work. The Biden administration has begun canceling student loan debt for 804,000 people. The United States announced another $200 million to Ukraine. The Biden administration wants a housing program for illegals crossing the border that he refuses to stop. The Biden administration is defending communications with social media companies, arguing that the channels must stay open so the federal government can help protect the public from threats to election security. You starting to pick this up, what I'm laying down here? You see what's going on? Do you sense this problem? We have these political persecutions of the chief rival to this madness, while this madness is just unfolding right under our noses and everyone's so distracted shouting Trump and Trump indictments. This guy is consolidating power and he's cutting checks to Ukraine. He's cutting checks for student loan bailouts. He's cutting checks for illegal aliens. Gas prices are shooting through the roof again. Inflation, still there, still a problem. Crime, rampant. While everyone shouts Trump indictment, Trump indictment, Trump indictment. For the fourth time. I don't have anything clever or new to say. Vivek Ramaswamy said these are politicized persecutions through prosecution. It'd be a lot easier for me if Donald Trump were not in this primary, but that's not how I want to win this election. Good for him. I don't know why that's hard for any Republican candidate to say. I think they should all say the exact same thing. I hope they say it next week at this debate. It'd be a lot easier for me if Donald Trump weren't in this primary, but this is not how I want to win the election, by jailing a former president or attempting to. Then there's the media, of course. If we can go back to, well, this is old. I kept this from a few days ago. This goes back to the 11th. Fast Eddie. John King and Dana Bash talking about Ukraine and your disbelief and your mistrust of them. Incredulous, as a matter of fact. Like I said, this goes back to the 11th. It's, how can I help you find that? No. I may not be able to. I'd been sitting on this. Sorry, again?
The number.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Give me PMA 0919. All right. So John King and Dana Bash are lamenting that you don't trust them and that you question funding of Ukraine. Take a listen to some of this.
When you hear the Ukraine exchange there, it's like watching the open of an old Tucker Carlson show. He's not there anymore, but that's what it is. And these are busy people. These are hardworking people. There are too many Democrats who want to say they're deplorables or, why talk to these people? There are millions of them. This is a family that literally is an economic anchor in the community. The business started in the basement, employs 80 people. The new solar company employs 15 people in a part of the country that has been devastated economically and challenged economically the last 25 years. They're good people. They raise money for the Girl Scouts. They go to church, but they believe things that would break our fact check machine. That's just a fact. And they don't trust us. They think we're
part of the problem. Dana Bash then jumps in. Next clip.
One of the things that struck me, first and foremost, obviously, was, and it really in my gut, in my heart, was just how seeped in these completely conspiratorial questions and thoughts are in the zeitgeist, particularly when you're talking to Republicans who consume conservative media who don't tell them the whole truth.
And so that is what passes for mainstream journalism in 2023. So given all of these things, and then you have people like that actually mocking you, that you question them. Marveling out loud, openly, stroking their chins, talking to one another about you like you're some sort of zoo animal. Incredulous that you dare question their reporting. That's what passes for journalism today. We went through that pretty extensively yesterday. We're not losing hope here, ladies and gentlemen. This lasts but for an evening. Joy comes in the morning. We don't lose hope, even in the midst of this very grim place we find ourselves. We don't lose hope. But it is grim. There's no doubt about it. The comfort that I have, that I know is true, is that tens of millions of Americans, just like you and me, are well aware. It isn't as though you're alone. It's not like we're an outlier. We're not an island. There are tens of millions of Americans that are living and seeing and experiencing the decay and the rot. They are terrified that the Democrat Party does not have a message to sell. I mean, just yesterday, this Todd Phillips guy surfaced again. Is this the same guy Dean Phillips, excuse me. This is the same guy who last week said, I want anybody else to run. He started floating names like Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, or J.B. Pritzker, who's not at all moderate. But my point is, you've got at least one Democrat called Dean Phillips who's out there screaming and yelling, we're in trouble. We need a more moderate candidate. So there are some Democrats who recognize and acknowledge how destructive and how radicalized this Democrat Party has become under the guidance of Barack Obama, which is what we're living under. They know it. I mean, I don't want people despairing as though the entire country, except those of us here, think everything's fine. People know instinctively, even if they won't say it aloud, something's terribly wrong. People understand that. They understand we're living, as Victor Davis Hanson says, the remaking of America. People know it. People feel it. They sense it. The gas prices are going back up. People feel, we talked about it in Philadelphia, this years long now, over 10-year tradition of an open-air music festival has been canceled. And as we looked into it, no journalist could really pin down why, but the ultimate conclusion was it may be equal parts economic and safety. And think about that, really. Think about if that's true, and I suspect it probably is. In a major American city, an open-air music festival with supposedly a star pop music lineup, and they can't sell tickets anymore. And the ultimate conclusion is because it's unsafe to be in the city, and it's probably too expensive on top of that. So they're not. So just think of the implications there. Think of a country where, did you ever think in the United States you'd feel like maybe you didn't want to go to an open-air gathering in a major American city just for fear of your safety? Did you ever think that you would hear the federal government telling employees in a major American city, just stay home, it's too crime-ridden, that city, so don't travel out, just stay in and work at home? So the country knows. As Trump is now indicted for a fourth time, the country knows. I have not lost faith in the American people. We have no news media. That's true. They gaslight and they lie. They mock you. But I take heart in the stories of Target, and I take heart in the stories of Kohl's, and I take heart in the stories of, Oliver Anthony and his new song that skyrocketed to number one organically. I take heart in movies like Sound of Freedom. I take heart in so much of corporate America that is running away and backing away from things like ESG and DEI, or at least, at a bare minimum, they're masking it as something new because they know they've been caught. I take heart at just a couple of years ago, people like Glenn Youngkin winning an election in Virginia, where we were told Republicans could never win again, and it was strictly because parents rose up and said no. I take heart in the explosion of Christian schools in this country, and they are exploding. You should know that. I'm now spending a lot of time in this space talking with people who build, develop, and run Christian education. They cannot hold everybody in the current constructs and confines of the buildings they have. Christian schools are growing and expanding as fast as they can. My daughters included. They can't take any more kids. They're busting at the seams. Parents are waking up. Young parents are waking up and saying, I'm not going to stick my kid on the bus and send them off to the factory for indoctrination 8 hours a day anymore. That system is being broken. It's going to take some time to unwind this and undo it, but I am optimistic that people are waking. I am. I can't tell you, I can't predict. It would be impossible to predict where this presidential election goes. I don't know. I don't know who will get the nomination. I don't know. It would be foolish of me. I think Trump secures the nomination At this hour, I think Trump could secure this nomination from a jail cell. Can Donald Trump win the general election? I don't know. That goes back to election integrity and whether you think we've got that sewn up. I can't predict that either. I'm not going to get defeatist about it, though. I'm not hanging it up. I'm not quitting. I'm not all is lost. Never Trumpers are all is lost. I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm seeing a lot of people who understand Trump's inevitability, probably as the nominee. They're also convinced he can't win. And that attitude, well, I'm conflicted on both sides of this because either way I'm concerned. If Trump is not the nominee, I'm deeply concerned there are a lot of Americans that will just quit on the whole process and go home and pout. And if Trump is the nominee, same. So a dispirited, fractured Republican base is the only thing that can really lose against this corrupt uniparty, this monolithic media Democrat machine. The only thing that could lose now is a party that will not consolidate and gather round the nominee, whoever that may be. And there are a lot of never Trump people who want somebody else who think Trump should be in jail. So what do you do about that? Democrats don't think that. Well, you got one Democrat out there shouting we need a choice. You got one congressman from Minnesota saying we need somebody else. The Democrat Party is squarely behind this husk. They're going to run to elect him again. And they're proud to, and they're happy to, and they're going to stand with him. Intra-party battles for the nomination are healthy. I'm happy to let them play out. People have deep passions about the way this thing should shake out. I'm deeply concerned, as I know you are, about the future of this country. I cannot waste a scintilla of energy on infighting amongst Republicans. I can't do it. We shouldn't do it. It's a terrible waste of our resources and energy. Yes, naturally, there has to be a contest, and that's all fine. Let there be a contest. I think at this critical juncture in American history that we would waste one breath fighting amongst ourselves about the nominee or arguing that the base who supports one nominee over the other is making a terrible mistake, castigating, chastising, chiding our fellow conservatives and Republican voters for choosing a candidate you wouldn't choose is a terrible, in my view, waste of energy and time when we're living in these politically apocalyptic times we're living. But I'm not telling anybody how to think or how to feel. I just, as I've shared with you, I'm not going to participate, and we can't now. The fourth indictment of a sitting president? You thought one was outrageous? Make it four. Okay, it's time to start thinking about your financial future. Never too early. Here we are in early 2023. What are your goals? Have you visited your financial situation with a pro that knows what they're doing, making plans for your future yet? Well, if you haven't, may I recommend Jason Perrett to you. Jason is a financial advisor at Eagle Wealth Planning, and he wanted me to talk with you in this audience. He values this audience. He's a listener of this podcast, and he said, I want to reach your audience. I want to help them plan their financial future, providing financial services to people who want to truly achieve financial independence, and he doesn't care where you are. If you are a accomplished entrepreneur, if you're a professional, a retiree, even if you're a young person and you just want to start the lifelong goal of financial independence and you don't quite know where to get started, Jason can do that for you. He's a fiduciary. He's dedicated to providing clients with complete wealth management and investment services along with highly personalized professional assistance. Jason will regularly revisit your plan, and that's one of the key things about this business is regularly checking in and assessing where things are, making sure you're on track, assessing your risk tolerance, strategies to provide you the high level of service that you would expect from someone in this position. And you can call him anytime you'd like, 816-394-8117. He's extremely available and accessible at all times, 816-394-8117. That's Jason Perrett, financial advisor at Eagle Wealth Planning, 1717 Paddock Drive in Kearney, Missouri. It doesn't matter where you live in the country. If you're listening to my voice and you need some help with financial planning, you want somebody that you know you're going to be on board with, because you listen to this show, Jason's your man, all right? So it's Jason at eaglewealthplanning.com. His website is linked on mine at chrisstigall.com if you'd like to go there and link up. Securities and advisory services offered through Cetera Advisors, LLC, member FINRA SIPC, a broker-dealer, and a registered investment advisor. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity. How about the Book of Lamentations? If you don't spend any time there, check it out. Go to Lamentations 3. Lamentations 3. Hope in the midst of affliction. Hope in the midst of affliction, the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah's 2 books focus on one event. It's the destruction of Jerusalem. So Jeremiah writes a whole book dedicated to the destruction of Jerusalem. And this particular passage, hope in the midst of affliction. I'm the man who has seen affliction. By the rod of his wrath, he has driven me away and made me walk in darkness rather than light. Indeed, he has turned his hand against me again and again all day long. He's walled me in so I cannot escape. I'm skipping ahead a bit here, folks. He's weighed me down with chains. Even though I cry for help, he shuts me out. He's barred my way with blocks of stone. He's made my paths crooked, like a bear lying in wait, like a lion in hiding. He dragged me from the path and mangled me and left me without help. He drew his bow and made me the target for his arrows, pierced my heart with arrows from his quiver. I became the laughingstock of all my people. They mock me in song all day long. I've been deprived of peace. I've forgotten what prosperity is. You think what we're living is new? So I say my splendor is gone, and all that I hoped for from the Lord. I remember my affliction and my wandering, the bitterness and the gall. I will remember them, and my soul is downcast. Yet this I call to mind. I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed. For his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion, therefore I will wait for him. The Lord is good to those whose hope is in him, to the one who seeks him. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. It is good for a man to bear the yoke. Let him sit alone in it in silence, for the Lord has laid it on him. Lamentations 3. Check it out. It's been my pleasure and honor to talk about Bob Spinato at Williamsburg Dental in Broomall, just off the Blue Route, as my dentist and friend of over 12 years. But now he has 2 brand new associates, his daughter Alexa and Dr. Geddes. Tell him about him, Bob.
Yeah, Chris, I can't begin to express how proud I am, obviously, of having my daughter there. Also, Dr. Geddes is just a wonderful addition to our practice. He is a classmate of my daughter Alexa's at Temple Dental School, and I have known Jared for about 7 years now. Getting to know Jared over the years, it was my wife Debbie and my daughter Emily who kept telling me, you have to hire Jared. You have to hire Jared. He's going to be a superstar. Jared went off to USC, did a 1-year residency after his year at Temple, and he came back and he worked for about a year in a practice in New Jersey. And after, again, my wife and daughter beating my brains in, I got the message and I hired Jared, and he's been a great addition to Williamsburg Dental.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com. Alan Dershowitz tore this latest indictment to shreds. Former legal counsel for Al Gore. If you don't remember, he was. And you might remember, I do, the Al Gore, George W. Bush election, the Hanging Chad's election. Alan Dershowitz was Al Gore's attorney back then. The presidential election results in 2000. And Alan Dershowitz was part of Gore's team at the time. And Dershowitz said the thing that Fannie, the prosecutor in Georgia, is going after Trump over is the exact same thing we did in challenging the outcome of the 2000 race. What Fannie is saying Trump did is exactly what we did to make the case that Al Gore had won. Donald Trump facing his fourth indictment. Dershowitz, speaking to Fox News Digital, criticized the pending indictment, calling Trump's actions very similar to that of Al Gore's legal strategy in the Bush versus Gore case that decided the 2000 election. We challenged the election, and we did very much the same things that are being done today, and people praised us at the time. I wrote a best-selling book called Supreme Injustice. Now they're making it a crime. We should go back and read Dershowitz's book, Supreme Injustice. He wrote a whole book about how the Supremes overturned the election effectively, in his view, for George W. Bush. Dershowitz said it would be wrong to expand the RICO statute to include political objections, including ones members of the Democrat Party have made. You cannot start making crimes out of things Democrats did. Tilden Hayes, John Kennedy election, 2000 election, 2016 election. Jamie Raskin gets up and does some of the same things. These are political actions the Constitution prefers us to take rather than going out on the streets and rioting. We're supposed to go to court. We're supposed to go to Congress. You can't make those things crimes, and you can't expand the RICO statute to now include political objections. Dershowitz compared the phone call where Trump said, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have because we won the state, Trump reportedly said. Georgia certified election results showing Trump's Democrat opponent won by 11,779 votes. Dershowitz compared that call to Gore's legal strategy in 2000. It's pretty much the same thing I did and Professor Lawrence Tribe did, and those of us who were with the Al Gore team. I was representing the voters of Palm Beach County, and we were saying, please check this county, check that county, find this vote, find those votes. We think there are more votes, Dershowitz described. We did the same thing, and Professor Tribe wrote a legal memorandum, essentially laying out a strategy very similar to the strategy for which these folks are being indicted today. So if you look back at the 2000 election and the protests, I still think to this day, and I'll say it here now, that the election was stolen from Al Gore by Bush and that he won the actual election. I'm saying that. And what, are they going to come after me now? So there's Dershowitz saying, I was part of Gore's team. I, to this day, believe George W. Bush and the Supreme Court stole the election rightfully from Al Gore. You going to throw me in jail? So he's using Al Gore, if you're following along, let me simplify this. He's using Al Gore to defend Donald Trump today. Now, I will tell you, some quarter century later, I never thought I would be here. If you'd told me 24 years ago that there would come a time that the Republican candidate for president loses and the chief argument to defend him is the one that Al Gore used when George W. Bush became president in 2000, I would never have believed you. Our friend Jim Garrity wrote a rare piece at the Washington Post. I was kind of surprised to see this there. Millions flowed to Biden family members. Don't pretend it doesn't matter. Whoa. The Washington Post. Let's assume that as President Biden's fans insist, there's no evidence of law breaking in the deals that had foreign companies paying more than $10 million to Biden family members during and after Biden's years as vice president. No doubt, the House Oversight Committee chair, led by James Comer, has its own preconceived narratives that Biden is on the take from all kinds of shady characters, and indictment of bribery or corruption would require proof that at some point while in office, Biden acted or influenced a U.S. government policy decision to benefit one of those companies. And so far, Comer doesn't have specifically that proof, yet we're still left with a motley collection of odd and unsavory figures sending a lot of money through a lot of companies and a lot of members of the Biden family without an explanation as to why. Comer contends that bank records confirm more than $10 million in payments running through at least 20 businesses, mostly limited liability companies, to Joe Biden's son Hunter. Also the president's brother, Jimmy the Square Jaw Boom Bots the Barback. James' wife, Sarah Jones Biden, Hallie Biden, the widow of Beau. Hunter's ex-wife, Hunter's current wife, and 3 children of the president's son and the president's brother. Just what goods or services did all those Biden family members provide to those companies? A businessman convicted of bribery in Romania paid as much as $1 million that ended up in Biden family accounts. Does anyone believe that a Chinese energy tycoon gave Hunter Biden a 2.8 carat diamond estimated to be worth $80,000 as a gift out of the goodness of his heart? This guy disappeared from public view in 2018, by the way, in the midst of a Chinese corruption crackdown. Biden voluntarily releases his tax returns and other financial disclosure reports required by law. Members of elected officials' families are not required to disclose anything, leaving a very easy way for any deep-pocketed individual or institution to purchase a friendship with someone who has a politician's ear. Does everybody understand that? I'm not always sure that people do, and it's important that we all are clear on this. Joe Biden does not have to have direct deposit Ukrainian and Chinese money in his bank account in order to be a thief. Does everybody get that? I feel like sometimes that's missing. These super oversimplified summaries, well, there's no evidence that Joe Biden is taking any money from anybody. Look at his records. He's an open book. It's all right there for you to... Hey, morons. When 9 members of his family are taking money and we don't get to see those books, money can get to your relatives without it going direct deposit into their bank account, okay? Let's not be idiots. Everyone understands that if you'd like to get your money to, if you'd like to get some cash to your brother and you'd like it not to be traceable, you know how to get it done. If I put out the challenge to you today, get 10 grand to a relative and keep it off the books, you know how to do it. Everyone knows how to get cash to somebody off the books. Come on. Let's stop being morons about it. Well, there's no evidence. I mean, his records are public. There's no banking records. You can go through them. There's no deposit. Okay. Why would Burisma so lucratively reward a ceremonial figure like Hunter Biden? What could Hunter possibly offer this company beyond a connection to his father? Confronted with the Comer Committee's report, Democrats scream, what about Ivanka Trump's trademarks in China? Or what about Trump and Jared Kushner profiting from Saudi investors? As far as the objection, writes Garrity, we don't elect leaders to the presidency or vice presidency so relatives can cash in with foreign business executives. That sordid, intermingling of personal financial interests with government policy is absolutely fair game in the 2024 presidential election. With great power comes great responsibility. Most of Washington is used to elected officials finding a sweet, low-responsibility, well-paying job for some otherwise unemployable son or niece. In 2012, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington went through the employment records of members of the House and determined 82 members paid family members through their congressional offices, campaign committees, or political action committees. It came out 42 Republicans and 40 Democrats. Apparently, Washington really did have more areas of bipartisan agreement back then. And in the grand scheme of things, giving your low-wattage relative a job answering phones in your congressional office is a small enough potential conflict that everyone can live with it. The problem is, the Biden family's unspecified gigs with foreign companies appear never to have developed a limiting principle while he was vice president. And now in the White House, variations on Biden's reflexive, my son did nothing wrong responses aren't going to cut it this time. Comer promises more, and he's taking direct aim at the not all that plausible excuse that the president is entirely disconnected from the financial arrangements of his family. Comer, speaking with Fox News, noted that Biden's media defenders act as though the revelations have nothing to do with Biden himself. That's ridiculous, Comer said. Of course, it has everything to do with Joe Biden. This is a piece in the Washington Post. Millions flowed to Biden family members. Don't pretend it doesn't matter. That's exactly right. This song has skyrocketed organically. This is one of those things I was talking about. This is the kind of thing that gives me hope that the country, even though you don't feel it and even though you don't necessarily see it, and maybe you sense despair, what gives me hope is that organically, just through sheer sharing and a viral moment, this guy called Oliver Anthony has rocketed to the top of the download charts with this song called Rich Men North of Richmond.
Pay so I can sit out here and waste my life away, drag back home and drown my troubles away. It's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me, people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is living in the new world with an whole soul. These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. Wanna know what you think, wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know, but I know that you do, 'cause your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end, 'cause the rich men north of Richmond. I wish politicians would look out for minors, and not just minors on an island somewhere. Lord, we got folks in the street, ain't got nothing to eat, and the whole beast milking welfare. Well, God, if you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds, taxes ought not to pay for your bags of fudge rounds. Young men are putting themselves 6 feet in the ground, 'cause all this damn country does is keep on kicking them down. Lord, it's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me, people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is living in the new world.
Jerome Hudson joins us. Jerome Hudson is Breitbart News Entertainment Editor, author of a book called 50 Things They Don't Want You to Know About Trump. I wish politicians would look out for minors and not just minors on an island somewhere. So look out for minors, M-I-N-E-R-S, and not just minors, M-O-M-I-N-O-R-S. Jerome, good morning, my friend.
Yeah, those are called homonyms. I learned that in public school in Savannah, Georgia.
Back when they taught those things, right?
Yeah. I heard that line as I heard that song about 4 days ago. I was actually in Costa Rica on vacation, and some other editors at Breitbart News sort of gang tackled the entertainment desk whenever I decide to go to dangerous Central American countries. But people were sending me this song, Chris, and I listened to it. And that line stuck out to me, as did the others, your taxes shouldn't pay for people who make poor health choices. I like it.
Yes.
I like it a lot. And Oliver Anthony is singing to your audience, I'm sure, a vast share of it. Agree with a lot of the things that he's singing about. The Breitbart audience is certainly singing along with him. They're clapping along with him. And this is so Andrew Breitbart. In order to change the country, you have to change the culture. And the elites who run the major news networks, certainly Hollywood, certainly a vast majority of the college campuses, they've had a stronghold on the culture for far too long. And I just hope and pray to God that Oliver Anthony is just one more swing of the sledgehammer that breaks the elites back. Finally, once and for all, people wake up and realize that he's right.
Yes.
I mean, this country is being run, at least in Washington, D.C., and probably one too many state houses, by people who are so disconnected and are so contempt. They have so much contempt for the people who hire them, the people who vote for them to go to Washington and to go to the state houses to fix the problems that many of those same people help create.
Jerome Hudson with us again, Breitbart News Entertainment Editor. Let me just play for you, just as an example of what you're talking about. The John King, I just played this a little earlier. John King talking last week about Ukraine and Republican voters, 0919. It's this kind of dripping contempt/confusion about those of us that would dare rise up and challenge official Washington, to your point. Listen to this conversation.
When you hear the Ukraine exchange there, it's like watching the open of an old Tucker Carlson show. He's not there anymore, but that's what it is. And these are busy people. These are hardworking people. There are too many Democrats who want to say they're deplorables or, why talk to these people? There are millions of them. This is a family that literally is an economic anchor in the community. The business started in the basement, employs 80 people. The new solar company employs 15 people in a part of the country that has been devastated economically and challenged economically the last 25 years. They're good people. They raise money for the Girl Scouts. They go to church, but they believe things that would break our fact check machine. That's just a fact. And they don't trust us. They think we're part of the problem.
Yeah.
Dana Bash then continues with number 20 here.
One of the things that struck me, first and foremost, obviously, was, and it really in my gut, in my heart, was just how seeped in these completely conspiratorial questions and thoughts are in the zeitgeist, particularly when you're talking to Republicans who consume conservative media who don't tell them the whole truth.
So you see, Jerome, we're good people. We go to church. We work hard, but we're just so stone cold stupid, Jerome.
Just too stupid. I think it's called irony when the two voices that you just heard, you cannot imagine the bubble, how thick the bubble is that they actually live in as they are disparaging and smearing the tens of millions of Americans who actually just want to be left the hell alone.
Yes.
And raise their children and their families and run their businesses without the boot being on their neck. Like, we're the problem. It's crazy. We just want to know where the hell our money is going. Okay. We actually, we have the capability to follow every single dime, but we can't even get an inspector general, a third party, some sort of actuarial oversight of it. How dare we, damn it.
Jerome, we were talking about Oliver's song. Your colleague John Nolte wrote a piece about Rolling Stone targeting Oliver Anthony. I mean, can you imagine doing a hit piece on a guy for writing a song? Minding his own business.
It, but so again, not to throw it in the face of your fine and lovely audience, but I was on vacation and I love my job so much that I just couldn't stay away. And I saw John Nolte sort of send the message that he would keep an eye out for attacks on Oliver Anthony. And I chimed in when I got back to John Nolte. I got back to the desk Monday, and I said, "Are you still on the lookout for Oliver Anthony hate?" And he said, "Absolutely." And no less, Chris, than 6 hours later did the National Review executive editor come out talking about how he quote, doesn't understand the adulation, end quote, for Oliver Anthony in his songs and his lyrics. And I can't put myself in the mind of an individual who would. I mean, I'm all for criticism. I've written 2 books. I've written thousands of articles, maybe. I've done thousands of hours on radio. like, I get criticism. I do understand that. But it seems like in this case, people are just searching for something to hate about, if not this man, his music. And the evidence is just so overwhelming to me that there's nothing wrong with this country except that we have for far too long voted for the exact wrong, immoral, spineless, corrupt people to actually fix, again, a lot of the problems that have been with us for, 50, 60 years.
You know, Jerome, I said just this morning, my reason for hope is found in things like the Bud Light thing, the Target thing, this Oliver Anthony thing. There are signs that this country's pulse is alive and very well when it's given the opportunity to organically rise up and call the shots. It doesn't feel that way when you watch cable news, but you see signs of it.
News.
Yeah. Don't watch cable news is right.
Rule number one. That's right. Rule number one. Stop. Right. And not only don't watch it, but don't subscribe to it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to throw any names out. You can go to Breitbart.com and you can find the articles. We tell people how to make sure you're not being tracked and how you can starve the beast like you. But you said something there that's really. So I started maybe 2 years ago to really just collect and catalog all the good news. You could go on and on, Chris. The fact that Sound of Freedom has outgrossed Indiana Jones 5, which is a funny thing because I love the fourth installment in that franchise.
Do you really?
It came out in 2000. Don't judge me.
The Crystal Skull? You liked the Crystal Skull.
I've lost all credibility here.
Wow!
But, I'm never going to come on and lie to you or your audience.
And they let you cash the check as the entertainment editor at Breitbart. Are you kidding me with that?
I don't think Larry Solov knows I still work for the company. Don't tell him.
No, listen, I'm a sucker for these things. I haven't seen the fifth one yet, but I intend to because I'm a sucker for the Harrison Ford thing. I can't help it.
It's just as hapless and pointless as the fourth one.
Oh, it's worse.
No one asked for the fourth one, and no one asked for the fifth one.
No,
but they made it anyway. I just love that. Sound of Freedom is actually talking about a serious scourge.
Yes.
That Oliver Anthony actually threw a line to. I mean, there are demonic individuals, men and women, who all service an industry in which children and women oftentimes are exploited sexually. And it is a billion-dollar industry. It is...
You know what I noticed, Jerome? And I'm sorry to interrupt you on this point, but what I noticed is when mainstream media writes about Oliver's song and they write about the lyrics, they very specifically write around that. Have you read that? They write around it as though they didn't read it.
It's the conversation piece of, I guess, the first verse or second verse. I can't remember what verse it is, but you can't miss it. You know what I mean? Like lyrically, musically.
Yeah.
You can't miss it. So that's sort of the thing, right? People are. I don't know. I'm sure people have a lot of reasons to support Sound of Freedom, but it is sort of. Look, I want to support this film because I want to help get the message out that this sexual exploitation of children and minors exists, and it exists on a level that is almost unfathomable. In my first book, I dedicated a lot of chapters to immigration, and one of the things that I wrote about was how the the Princeton Institute, this information was 2015, 2016, estimated that over 100,000 women and children will be raped as they make the trek from South America to our U.S.-Mexico border. And I actually think about some of the research that I did a few years ago, and all of that, just the child trafficking hotline had skyrocketed, and documented cases from 2015 and 2017. I often think, like, those were illegal immigration numbers, Chris, that are just planets away from what we've experienced in the 2 years under Joe Biden. And again, you can't fathom how many evil deeds are happening. And we are now the conduit of it. Our DHS, our taxpayers, that we fund these agencies that are supposed to enforce our immigration laws, are actually just a third party for these cartels, these evil bastards that are trafficking these people in these munitions and these drugs that are poisoning our communities. People are like, yeah, if I can support a movie that shines a great big spotlight on this scourge, and I'll do it. And they did it to the tune that it outgrossed a movie that was produced by Disney, the largest entertainment brand on the planet. You have Dave Chappelle. This is another example.
Yes.
I don't really know Dave Chappelle's politics, but I mean, he stumped for Ben Jealous, who used to be the president of the NAACP when Ben Jealous was running for governor of Maryland. I think I can assume a lot of Dave Chappelle's politics, but the left tried to cancel him, not for his politics being, participating in wrong speech, but because Dave Chappelle said there are two sexes. He actually said there are two genders, but I'll correct him just slightly. Dave Chappelle stood on the stage and said there are two sexes. I am a member of one of them, and many of you are a member of the other. Those who are members of the other can do something that my sex can't do, give birth. The transgender left and the pregnant man emoji left tried to cancel one of the greatest living comedians for just basically reading a chapter from a biology book, Chris.
Yes.
It was at that moment that I realized that we might be okay. When the left's arguments are, we can maybe kill a child after it's born. And what is wrong with the 6'6" man in heels and a dress peeing next to your daughter? Like, when Disney is the equivalent of a sex offender, you can't leave your children watching it alone. I think we might be okay. We might just be okay.
Jerome Hudson leaving us with a cause for hope. That's been the theme of this morning's show. We're looking for rays of hope out there, and I think that they do exist, and I think you're exactly right to point them out there. Jerome Hudson, he's the Breitbart News Entertainment Editor, author of 50 Things They Don't Want You to Know About Trump. And we'll continue to stay in touch, Jerome. This is our first conversation, but I hope not our last. Thank you for being with us today.
Please do. I'm very easy to find, actually.
When you're not in Costa Rica.
I'd love to come back. No.
You know the jingle, right? For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com. It's true. It really is the best night's sleep in the whole wide world. I've been sleeping on MyPillow 2.0 for the last few weeks, and it is so comfortable. Can I be honest? I didn't really buy the whole Mike Lindell patented adjustable fill thing. I didn't know what that meant, adjustable fill. I was like, yeah, sure. The pillow's going to go flat. It doesn't go flat. You know how you buy a pillow at the store and you're like, oh, that's nice, and you sleep on it for a couple of days? I got a big, fat, heavy head. And all it takes is a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of nights where I get a little warm, and all of a sudden that pillow just... And a couple of weeks, my neck is cricked, and it's miserable. I've never had luck with pillows. Well, I tell you, this fill that MyPillow talks about and Mike talks about, it is adjustable, and it constantly stays. You adjust it at night, and your head is like even. It's not like cranked down. It's like I haven't laid on a pillow night after night for weeks that keeps my head even with my shoulders, but this pillow does. And now, because it's MyPillow 2.0, you say what makes it more special? Well, they've got a new fabric that dissipates heat and humidity on top of that. So it stays cool all night long. There is no flipping to the cool side of the pillow. The pillow stays cool. So it's that firmness and adjustability that you like, and it's also now cool to the touch. The fabric is soft. It's great. Couple that with the Giza Dream Sheets, the MyPillow body pillow. I feel like I'm sleeping on a cloud every night. I really have slept like a baby lately. Christine loves her MyPillow slippers. I sent my entire Chris Stigall Show team MyPillow travel pillows. Got a dog bed for Eddie and his dog, Dean, my dog, sleeps on a MyPillow dog bed. One of my associate producers is loving his Giza Dream sheets and the slippers. Look, if you want really high-quality stuff, is it the cheapest? No. I'll just be honest with you. I know some people say, oh, it's expensive. Well, look, it's made in America. It has a 60-day money-back guarantee. It has a 10-year warranty on every single product Mike sells. So it's well made, and he stands behind it. So look, that comes, with a bit of a cost associated with it. That's true. You want something cheap and Chinese? Fine. Now, you're not going to find that at MyPillow. But if you want a really great discount on that, go to MyPillow.com and use my name, Chris Podcast. If you type in Chris Podcast, it lets them know you listen, and I appreciate it. So the promo code is Chris Podcast. That gets you the discount on the stuff. You get a second MyPillow 2.0 if you order one. Chris Podcast is the code at MyPillow.com or call 800-932-5056. The Blind Side. I never did see that movie, The Blind Side. Did you see it?
When it came out, yeah.
Is it good?
Yes. Yeah, very good.
Never saw it. That's Tim McGraw and Sandra Bullock, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Retired NFL star Michael Orr, whose supposed adoption out of a grinding poverty by a wealthy white family, immortalized in the 2009 movie Blind Side, petitioned a Tennessee court yesterday with allegations that a central element of the story was a lie concocted by the family to enrich itself at his expense. The 14-page petition filed in Shelby County, Tennessee, probate court alleges that Sean and Leanne Toohey, who took Orr into their home as a high school student, never adopted him. Instead, less than 3 months after Orr turned 18, the petition says the couple tricked him into signing a document making them his conservators, which gave them legal authority to make business deals in his name. The petition further alleges the Tooheys used their power as conservators to strike a deal that paid them and their two birth children millions of dollars in royalties from an Oscar-winning film that earned more than $300 million, while Orr got nothing for a story that would not have existed without him. In the years since, the Tooheys have continued calling the 37-year-old Orr their adopted son and have used that association to promote their foundation, as well as Leanne Toohey's work as an author and motivational speaker. The lie of Michael's adoption is one upon which co-conservators Leanne Toohey and Sean Toohey have enriched themselves at the expense of their ward, the undersigned Michael Orr. Michael Orr discovered this lie to his chagrin and embarrassment in February of this year when he learned that the conservatorship to which he consented on the basis that doing so would make him a member of the Toohey family, in fact, provided him no familial relationship with the Tooheys. The Toohey family did not immediately return phone calls Monday to numbers listed for them. Their attorney, Steve Faris, declined to comment to ESPN. Sean Toohey told the Daily Memphian website that he was stunned by Orr's allegations and said the Tooheys didn't make any money off the movie. Only a share of proceeds from Michael Lewis's book, which was the foundation for the film. We're devastated, Sean Toohey told the outlet. It's upsetting to think we would make money off any of our children, but we're going to love Michael at 37, just like we loved him at 16. Orr's petition asks the court to end the Tooheys' conservatorship and to issue an injunction barring them from using his name and likeness. It also seeks a full accounting of the money the Tooheys earned using Orr's name and to have the couple pay him his fair share of profits, as well as unspecified compensatory and punitive damages. Who do you think's telling the truth in that one, Fast Eddie? That's a big story. That's a popular movie, I know. I never saw it, but I know it was one lots and lots and lots and lots of people watched, and it did very well at the box office.
This is a tough one, man. I do not have a read on it. It's very probable that both sides could be right.
Yeah, I know. It's like you could see it either way. You could really, this is a jump ball because we'll never know. We weren't in the room. The lie of Michael's adoption is one upon which the conservators have enriched themselves. They used their power as conservators to strike a deal that paid them millions of dollars in royalties. Tricked him into signing a document, making him making them his conservators, which gave them legal authority to make business deals in his name. Now, who did he play for? I forgot who he went into the NFL, and I don't even remember who he played for.
Ravens and there were two teams.
Did he do well? Was he considered a good player? I don't know much about him. I never followed his career trajectory. And I would assume during his tenure in the NFL, the money he made was his. I wouldn't think that has anything to do with his adoptive parents.
No. Yeah.
So that tells me then, I wonder how much he got paid. See, I'm inclined to think this might be a story of a guy, wonder how long he played and what he got paid while he played. I'll give you a second to Google.
Yeah, it's trying to look. Yes, okay. Of course, it updated 3 hours ago. He was all right. The Ravens, Titans, and Panthers. So Ravens in 2000. So he played from 2009 to 2016.
Oh, he had a long run then.
Mm-hmm.
As a starter?
Yeah, offensive tackle. Yep.
Okay, so he probably made some good cheddar. You can assume he made, 09 to 16?
Yeah, and they won, was that Super Bowl XLVII?
Okay, so, wow. So that's seven years in the NFL?
Mm-hmm.
As a starting offensive tackle. That means he probably, I wonder what he took in. What do you suppose? Several million? Is that a position that earns you several million over 7 years?
I think so, yeah.
So, one wonders. He's just discovering in February 2023 this legal document, his adopted parents. He's just discovering it. Look, I don't know, but my sense of it is, and now I'm getting all the incoming. You haven't seen The Blind Side? No, I haven't, and I'm not going to now.
I
don't start with me. I shouldn't even be honest. You know what I should just do is lie and say, I've seen every movie ever made, so people don't send me notes shrieking that they can't believe I haven't seen them. No, I haven't, and I don't. In fact, 9 times out of 10, if there's a film you're excited about, my answer is going to be, no, I haven't seen it. Leave me alone. At any rate, this film, I understand, is an important film to many people, particularly people who are fans of football. And the point of it is, this guy is now claiming, ostensibly, that the parents are hucksters. And it all unravels. So as excited as you may be about it, this guy's he's apparently in the position of blowing the entire thing up. So if it ends up being a fraud, it seems I might have been in the right to have not seen it all along. Ha 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 ha!
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.